As iconic vacation experiences went, waking up in the Viscount's bedchamber of a stately home in England was up there with kissing the Blarney Stone. Amelia Bennet had kissed the Blarney Stone 2 weeks ago. It had tasted of disinfectant. Not so the delicious Lord Morley, whose naked, sleeping form was curled up beside her in scandalously twisted bed linen. Amelia's eyes took a second or two to focus, and when they did, she got the same kick of attraction that had led her to this happy predicament. Tom looked solemn without his characteristic half-grin, though she could just make out a scar-like imprint where his dimple usually sat. Like the sheets, he was much more rumpled than yesterday. Espresso brown hair on the messier side of wavy. 5 o'clock shadow, or rather, 9 o'clock the next morning shadow. Parallel lines etched into the calico winter skin between his dark eyebrows, as if he were concentrating deeply on his dream. At the same time, coolly aristocratic and classically hot. "What if this is fate? You and me finding each other?" He'd whispered at some point of the night as he traced the line of her cheekbone with a fingertip. It was a weird memory, hazy and drifting like a dream. But she could swear it was real. Even as she thought about it, she could feel his touch, though his hands remained at rest, one on the sheets, one on her hip. She could hear him speak, though his rose quartz lips remained closed, bunched up against the feather pillow. A shimmer went through her belly, exactly as it had then. She blinked hard, her eyes stinging and watering. What was in that wine? It had turned into one heck of the Pride and Prejudice experience promised in the estate flyer. Not that this was one of the suggested stops on the self-guided Jane Austen tour of England. Visit Jane's house in Chawton, take a walking tour of Bath, spend a steamy night with an aristocrat in a manor where the latest Pride and Prejudice TV series was filmed. She'd come to Sundew Abbey to admire its Georgian architecture, fine furnishings, and pretty gardens. And then she'd moved on to admiring a far more attractive seat. As she slipped out from under Tom's heavy arm, he adjusted position and murmured something indecipherable, though she would swear it was in his divine English accent. She stilled, half in, half out of the bed, before he settled back into sleep. She tiptoed across the carpet, hand-knitted Axminster, mid-18th century, going by the tiger lily and magnolia motifs, and headed to the bathroom. The wind shuddered against the window panes, but it was warm inside. Tom had kept the fire going through the night. At one point, she'd woken alone and looked around in panic until anchored by the sight of him crouched before the fireplace, his bare skin warmed by the flame, the flickering shadows contouring his strong, honed body. She'd drifted into dreams of him, vivid, kaleidoscopic. She couldn't pin them down now, but they'd involved whispered promises, firm hands, and a frantic waltz in an 18th century gown made of Spitalfield silk in palest blue with silver brocade. She could still feel the cool, textured cloth against her skin. Or had that actually happened? Between the wine, the dreamy aristocrat, and the otherworldly setting, the border between reality and imagination was so blurred as to be seamless. Evidence suggested that stripping each other naked by firelight had happened, but the red and yellow dragon that had looped-a-looped through the kitchen probably hadn't. She quietly closed the bathroom door behind her and pulled a cord to switch on a little wall heater. It felt like a room she'd visited in the distant past, and she took a few seconds to reorient herself. Cracked clawfoot tub, rudely superseded by a 1980s glass and steel shower box. Antique French Savonnerie rug fragment used, shockingly, as a bath mat. Her textile conservator brain ordered her to step off it, but the floorboards were too cold for bare feet. She leaned into the shower and turned it on. Icy water sprayed her arm, and she pulled back with a gasp. She caught a scent that was unmistakably Tom.
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.